Oh, good morning. Um, so it finally snowed a little bit here. Just a little bit. Like a tiny, tiny bit. And unfortunately, it's still melting. So, you guys don't know this about me, but actually, despite my rather drunken ramblings, I'm actually a huge student of history. And I was asking myself, like, why do you study World War II so hard? Why have you read William Shearer's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich back and forth at least 15 times? You know, why are you reading the Third Reich in Power? Why did you buy the Third Reich? Or I'm sorry, I'm reading the Third Reich at War. I also bought Richard J. Evans' prequel book, The Third Reich in Power, which is from January 33 to September 39, when it was the Third Reich just running the government of Germany. So why? I think the answer here is that I want to figure out how Germany could have won the war. Not because they're good guys. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not an anti-Semite. And believe me, this book, The Third Reich at War, is... I can get about 20 pages at a time before I have to put it down for a while because it is extremely brutal and depressing stuff because he's more Holocaust focused than war strategy focused. And believe me, you can only read so much about stripping 5-year-old kids and women and innocent men, like, naked, lining them up, dig their own graves, and shoot them. And they did this not by the hundreds, not by the thousands, not by the hundreds of thousands, but by the millions. So yeah, it's it's heavy reading, just emotionally heavy reading. But so why do I read this stuff? One, people should know. People need to know this, and they need to read it. I dropped my cigarettes, hang on. But people need to know this stuff because when these idiots around here, these fucking liberals, when they talk about how Trump's a fascist and Trump's a Nazi, you don't know what it is. You don't know what fascism, and not fascism. I have other opinions on Mussolini. He picked the wrong side. But Nazism is pure evil. And I think that's the question that historians have been trying to wrap their heads around for the last 60, 70 years. Is what drives the people to do this to other people? Like, I was in the Marines. And I was 17, I was a kid. And I did it because I'm a short guy. I'm 5'4". Okay, guys, I'm 5'4". Okay, so I had a chip on my shoulder, so I want to be a tough guy. When it came down to the nitty gritty of actually going to war, and this was back in like 2004. So, when I joined, I thought I was going to go fight terrorists in Afghanistan or something. People who actually deserved it. But by the time I was in boot camp, the Iraq War had started, and I knew the role. I knew in junior year of high school when I signed up, I knew the war was bullshit. I didn't want to go fucking die in Fallujah, and I didn't want to kill people in Fallujah. They had nothing to do with us. Why am I over there shooting people? So, I don't want to kill people. I would never, ever hurt someone physically or kill them. Even if they order me, I would rather line me up against the wall and shoot me because I disobeyed orders because I'm not going to fucking kill someone. No. Guess I'm a coward. Well, at least I can go to my grave knowing I've never hurt and killed anyone. Okay? Well, anyway, back to Nazism and all that stuff. So I think I read in this book is like, what could Germany have done to win the war? Where was the turning point? Was it inevitable? I'm just watching a video from Tick, so Tick, thank you. And I'm not trying to be derivative from him or anything, but he's been very useful and educational. I definitely recommend his channel. TIK. Just, yeah. Link not in the description. And I don't have a Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or any of that bullshit. Nah. No one's going to see this anyways. But, so, where was the turning point? Yeah. Now, I've done enough reading and it wasn't Kursk, it wasn't Moscow. If they had taken more troops from Army Group Center and taken them into Army Group South and gone into the Caucasus and gotten that oil, they would have won easily. I think that would have been it. And oddly enough, Hitler was the one who wanted to do that, and his generals, who had a more political mindset, capture the capital, you win the war. But they had no sense of history because Napoleon tried that. And I think it was Tsar Alexander. Yeah, I think so. Double check me on that, guys. But what did Tsar Alexander do? He abandoned the city, Moscow, the capital, and burned it to the ground. So Napoleon's troops were occupying an empty, burned-out city. Meanwhile, they just moved, they just moved down and recouped. They went beyond, they went, just further east. Russia's kind of big, guys. It's enormous. I live in Montana, which is enormous. And I've lived in Alaska, which is even more enormous. No, Russia's, that's a lot bigger. So, I wonder to myself, what could they have done? You capture Moscow, all Stalin has to do is move beyond the Urals, where the factories that he already moved are, and building more tanks, and then just would have taken it back anyway. Take the resources, logistics. All right, you know what wins battles, guys? You know what wins wars? Generals? No. Soldiers? No. Soldiers don't lose wars. Your average soldier, every day, is going to fight. And generals, they do their best. And there are some really fucking bad generals. There's also some really good generals. The reason the Iraq War lasted so long and we kind of bitched out of it is because our generals were garbage. Absolute garbage. Had no idea what the fuck they were doing. But if Hitler had forced his generals to focus Army Group South to... Hang on a sec, guys. Sir. Had focused himself, or the three army groups, Army Group North, Army Group South, Army Group South. If he had forced his generals to put all the resources, logistics, everything like that, and logistics, generals, soldiers, no, logistics wins wars. Soldiers can't fight if they don't have bullets. If they don't have gas for their tanks, the tanks can't do anything. Logistics wins wars. And the Wehrmacht was already really stretched at this point. Put them to the south, get the oil in the Caucasus. Do that. And don't invade Stalingrad. Or don't try to, capture the city. You didn't have to do that. Capture the river, cut off supplies, but don't actually go into that city. Because the 6th Army under General Paulus, 250,000 men walked into that city. 5,000 of them actually made it out after 15, 20 years back to Germany. Now, if you'd have focused, just cut off the supplies and hold off the Russian counteroffensives right there, then, yeah. And go, get the oil in the Caucasus. The other thing I can think of that might have won Germany the war is if Rommel had been given the proper supplies in North Africa, in his Africa Corps, and I have a lot of admiration and respect for Rommel. He wasn't a Nazi. He wasn't an anti-Semite. He followed the rules of war. He didn't shoot prisoners. No. But if he'd gotten proper supplies and logistics, take Alexandria, cut off the Suez Canal, Britain's crippled as far as their supply chain from India goes, and all of their oil supplies, then they also might have been able to win the war. And, I won't go into if Japan had attacked Russia from the east, they were never going to do that. So I'm not going into that what-if scenario, because Japan had no interest. They had just lost a major war against Russia in the 30s, the late 30s. They had gotten their asses whooped, so they had no intention of pushing the Russian bear. So that wasn't going to happen. So I won't go into that what-if scenario. I'm saying the decisions made by the Germans and the German generals and by the Führer, how they could have won. And I'm not saying they should have won. Don't get me wrong. They were the bad guys. They absolutely were the bad guys. Like, I had a friend of mine, a liberal, of course. Well, we put the Japanese in concentration camps. Yeah, we interned them. Did we line them up against the wall and shoot them? No. Was it right? No. However, there were Japanese spies in Hawaii who took pictures and cited. So the feeling that maybe that some of these Japanese are spies is not unjustifiable. It's a legitimate concern, and this is war. Bad things happen in war. So yes. Was it right? No. Was it necessary? In my opinion, unfortunately, yes. Just like the atomic bombs were necessary. Which I had that argument with them too. Okay, you have 3 scenarios for Japan. And I'll finish this up because I'm, kind of rambling a little bit. But Japan lost the war right away. There was no way they could defeat us because they did not understand the American character. We have a lot of resources here. We have a lot of people. Japan had a lot of people too, but they had no resources. They blow up an aircraft carrier, we can build one. We blow up a Japanese aircraft carrier, they can't build another one. They don't have the resources. They don't have the metal, the oil, all that stuff. So, the end of the war, we nuked Japan. We nuked them. Justifiably so. Here's why. All right. Prior to this, we firebombed Tokyo. It killed, the first day of the firebombing of Tokyo, we killed 150,000 people. That's more than both the atomic bombs combined. That city, that's the reason we didn't nuke Tokyo, because there's nothing left. Second reason. At this point, the Americans were sick of fighting the war. Everyone was sick of the war. It's been going on for 6 years. So, do you invade the home islands in a land invasion? They were projecting at least 250,000 American dead. Not to mention millions of dead Japanese. Millions, not 150,000. Millions dead, right? So, second option, blockade Japan and starve them out. Well, here's what would have happened. We would have starved them out. And they were projecting by mid-November of 1945, if we would just blockaded them, and they would not have surrendered, they would have died. 30 million Japanese would have died. The entire society would have collapsed. Their entire civilization wiped out through starvation. So, Truman used the third option. Drop some bombs and tell them you're not going to win this war. And we're just going to keep dropping bombs on you until you fucking cave. And even after Nagasaki, it was a 3-2 decision between the cabinet, and the emperor finally cast the deciding vote, and the emperor said, let's surrender. And we were gracious enough, we rebuilt their country, we rebuilt the German country, we did that. So Japan was never going to win that war. Had Germany made a few slightly different decisions, Army Group South, go to the Caucasus, or Rommel, give him proper logistics and supplies in North Africa to cut the British off, they might have won. Maybe. Because then they would have had the resources of the Soviet Union at their disposal, which at that point they would have been one-on-one against America and Britain. So most likely they still would have lost, but their chance to win, those are those chances. Army Group South, go to the Caucasus, get the oil. Rommel, cut off British supplies, and if he had proper logistics, you can get to Iraq in the Middle East and get the oil from there too. So, I've been studying World War II for 18 years. 16 years. I'll say junior in high school, I read William Scher's book, Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. So that's when I started. So that's my opinion on that. Thanks, guys.